Right, let's have a proper chat about something sitting in almost every kitchen cupboard in Britain. You walk down the spice aisle at Tesco or Sainsbury's looking for salt, and you see that sleek premium glass grinder filled with beautiful millennial pink crystals. It costs £4, while the standard blue drum of Saxa table salt sits on the bottom shelf for under £1. You buy the pink stuff because you care about your health, right? It's natural, it's ancient, it's packed with minerals, and frankly, it looks brilliant on the dining table. But what if I told you that beautiful pink hue you're paying a massive premium for is actually the ultimate marketing con? And worse, you might be seasoning your Sunday roast with toxic heavy metals. What if that wellness habit is actually exposing your family to geological hazards while starving your body of a critical nutrient? It sounds mental, but independent laboratory testing has just cracked open a massive scandal that British supermarkets are completely ignoring by the time you finish watching this video. You will know more about what's actually inside your food than 90% of shoppers drifting through Asda or Morrison's. I am going to show you the exact laboratory data that sent shockwaves through the consumer market. We will break down the absolute legal loophole that allows unverified products straight onto British shelves. And we'll uncover the massive health crisis nobody in the wellness industry wants to talk about. Most importantly, make sure you stay tuned until the very end, because the most shocking revelation isn't just what is hidden inside those pink crystals. It's the incredibly simple, dirt-cheap British alternative that independent labs proved is completely pure, which you can buy for pennies. Before we start naming the specific brands you need to bin immediately, we need to understand how salt actually works and why we've been completely blinded by clever marketing. At its core, salt is just sodium chloride. Whether it comes from a pristine sea or a deep underground mine, your body processes the sodium exactly the same way. Think of it like petrol. Whether you buy premium or standard, it's still there to run the engine. The entire wellness industry is built on the premise that unrefined salt is a superfood because it hasn't been processed. They tell you that industrial refining strips away the magic, leaving a chemical void. But here is the massive industrial trick they don't want you to think about. Refining exists for a reason. When you mine raw salt from deep within the earth, you aren't just digging up pure sodium chloride. You are digging up whatever was trapped in that ancient earth when the prehistoric oceans dried up millions of years ago. Refining is literally a washing and filtration process that removes dirt, grit, and naturally occurring geological toxins. It's like filtering muddy river water before you drink it. By demanding completely unrefined, raw, ancient salt, consumers have accidentally forced corporations to skip the cleaning process entirely. The industry happily obliged because skipping the refining process saves them a fortune in manufacturing costs, while allowing them to slap a 100% natural and raw label on the front and charge you 10 times the price. They've convinced us that geological debris is a premium luxury. We are actively paying more money for companies to leave the impurities inside our food, operating under the bizarre delusion that if it's ancient, it must be perfectly healthy. But nature isn't a sterile laboratory. The Earth's crust is full of nasty stuff, and that is precisely where this beautiful pink illusion completely falls apart. Let's get straight into the absolute state of the British supermarket shelves, because this is where the marketing fairy tale hits the brick wall of laboratory reality. We are going to break down exactly what is sitting in your kitchen cupboard right now, moving from the standard supermarket lines right up to the ridiculously expensive artisan brands that you can find at high-end shops. First up, let's look at the absolute staple of the spice aisle, Bart Himalayan pink salt. Now, Bart is a massive name in the UK. You see their glass jars everywhere, from Waitrose to Sainsbury's, and they've built a brilliant reputation as the dependable choice for home cooks who want quality ingredients. They tell you all about how this salt is sourced from the ancient salt range in Pakistan, formed over 250 million years ago, rich in natural trace minerals that give it that lovely pink hue. It looks beautiful, it feels premium, and it costs a pretty penny compared to standard table salt. But here is the massive problem. That exact geological formation in the Punjab region of Pakistan is the single source for virtually all pink salt globally, including the specific batches that independent EPA-certified laboratories in America just pulled off the shelves for rigorous testing. When consumer watchdog groups like Mamavation sent these Pakistani pink salt samples to the lab, they weren't looking at the marketing copy. They were looking at the molecular structure. The results were a total horror show. A staggering 96% of the pink salt samples tested positive for measurable, quantifiable lead. Not trace elements that blurred into the background, but actual lead contamination. On top of that, 100% of the samples tested positive for arsenic. Because BART sources directly from this exact same geological formation, you are playing a game of geological Russian roulette every time you grind it over your eggs. The iron oxide that makes it pink is literally rust, and locked right alongside that rust in the crystal lattice are the heavy metals naturally present in the Earth's crust. It tastes just like regular salt, it grinds beautifully, but beneath that aesthetic exterior is a complete lack of verified purity. It's a classic corporate setup, gorgeous packaging masking a raw, unrefined geological gamble. If you think switching to a budget supermarket line saves you from this risk, think again. Let's look at the Foodco Himalayan pink salt, which you will find lining the world food aisles of Asda, Morrison's and Tesco. Foodco is massive for sourcing bulk ingredients, and their pink salt is incredibly popular because it offers that premium wellness look at a slightly lower price point per gram. But this is where the systemic corporate mechanics of the food industry come into play. Supermarkets and bulk packers don't have exclusive, lifelong contracts with a single pristine artisanal well. They work on rolling procurement contracts where the absolute driving factor is cost efficiency. Tesco or Foodco will put out a quarterly or annual tender for pink salt. Multiple Pakistani exporters bid on it, and whoever offers the lowest price per ton while hitting the basic commercial spec wins the contract. This means the Foodco pink salt you bought 6 months ago could be from an entirely different mine, processed by a completely different facility than the bag you bought yesterday. The packaging remains completely identical, but the actual substance inside is constantly shifting based on commodity market pricing. And because the UK Food Standards Agency doesn't classify salt as a high-risk category requiring routine pre-market heavy metal testing, there is absolutely zero regulatory obligation for these brands to verify batch-to-batch purity before it lands on your plate. It is an absolute transparency black hole, and if you already feel like checking your own cupboard right now, hit that subscribe button because it gets significantly harsher from here. Next up is East End Himalayan pink salt, another giant in the British cash and carry and supermarket network. East End is a brand built on trust and heritage, a staple in British Asian kitchens and mainstream homes alike for decades. They trade heavily on the image of authentic, wholesome ingredients straight from the source. But when I went through their official documentation and scanned their digital footprint for a single certificate of analysis, a basic lab report proving a batch has been cleared of toxic contaminants, I found absolutely nothing. I checked Sainsbury's, I checked Morrison's, I checked the brand websites themselves. Not one single British distributor publishes third-party laboratory verification for heavy metals. We are expected to just trust that because a massive retailer has placed it on the shelf, it must be perfectly safe. But that is exactly what American consumers did until independent testing blew the whistle. To put the pricing in context, you are paying upwards of £8 to £10 per kilogram for this unverified Pakistani rock salt, while perfectly clean, refined table salt costs about £1.25 per kilo. You are literally paying an 800% markup for a product that hasn't even been washed clean of ancient crustal contaminants. Finally, we have to talk about the absolute peak of the wellness scam, Celtic sea salt, which is imported into the UK and sold at places like Whole Foods, premium health shops, and all over Amazon UK for an eye-watering £15 to £20 for a small bag. This stuff is heavily endorsed by wellness influencers and online health gurus who swear it's the cleanest, most mineral-dense substance on Earth, harvested using traditional wooden tools from protected coastal areas in France. It's grey, it's damp, and it screams artisanal purity well. That entire premium illusion completely shattered when a massive class action lawsuit was filed after independent laboratory testing revealed that fine ground and light grey Celtic sea salt contained up to 460 parts per billion of lead. That is an astronomical level for a product marketed as a pure health tonic. It completely eviscerates the argument that paying premium prices guarantees premium safety. Whether it is pink salt from a Pakistani mine or grey salt from a French marsh, the wellness industry has taken raw, dirty, unrefined, industrial-grade geological matter, wrapped it in a lovely story about ancient purity, and sold it to hard-working British consumers at a luxury markup. It turns out that paying 15 quid for a bag of salt doesn't buy you better health. It just buys a corporate executive a nicer car while you season your dinner with heavy metals. It is an absolute joke. And now, what it was worth watching all the way through for. We have waded through the corporate evasion, the lack of supermarket testing, and the completely busted marketing myths of the wellness industry. It is incredibly easy to feel totally defeated by all this, thinking that absolutely everything on our supermarket shelves is a toxic minefield. But this is the exact moment the narrative completely flips. There are exceptional options available right here in Britain that give you immaculate purity, complete transparency, and a level of quality that makes the unrefined pink stuff look like absolute rubbish. You do not have to gamble with your health, and you do not have to order obscure, incredibly expensive products from abroad. The solutions are sitting right under our noses in everyday British shops. Let's start with the absolute champion of the British kitchen, Maldon Sea Salt. This is the ultimate proof that you do not need to look for exotic faraway mountain ranges to find world-class quality. Maldon has been harvested in Essex since 1882, using traditional methods that involve heating natural seawater in large stainless steel pans until beautiful pyramid-shaped crystals form. When independent third-party consumer laboratories put Maldon sea salt through rigorous testing, looking specifically for arsenic, cadmium, mercury, and lead, the results came back absolutely pristine. It was non-detect across the board. Every single toxic heavy metal came back clean. Because Maldon evaporates purified seawater rather than digging raw rock out of a heavily contaminated geological fault line, the resulting crystals are completely free of ancient crustal toxins. When you sprinkle those crisp white pyramids onto your food, you get a clean, intense, instantly dissolving burst of salinity with absolutely no bitterness. It transforms the texture of a dish in a way that dense, gritty pink rock crystals simply cannot match. In terms of price, a 250-gram box of Maldon costs around £3 at Tesco, Sainsbury's, or Asda. That works out to roughly £12 per kilogram. When you calculate the cost per serving, it is a fraction of a penny. You are getting verified lab-tested purity and a product trusted by world-renowned professional chefs for a completely negligible investment. The single minor downside is that, like most unfortified specialty salts, it does not contain added iodine, but as a pure finishing salt, its structural safety is totally flawless. tamararubin.com if you want a truly premium, single-source British product with a bulletproof focus on modern ecological standards. Look no further than Himalayan Mon Anglesey sea salt. Harvested from the crystal-clear waters of the Menai Strait in North Wales, this brand has earned a protected geographical indication status, putting it on par with champagne or Parma ham. Himalayan Mon treats the entire production process with the scientific precision of a laboratory while maintaining complete artisanal integrity. To combat the modern threat of marine contamination and microplastics, they draw their seawater through a natural sandbank and a mussel bank before passing it through an incredibly robust filtration regime, including a sand filter, a carbon filter, 6 separate cartridge filters, and a final ultraviolet filter. The finest filter goes all the way down to approximately 1 micron, which is 70 times finer than a human hair. The Soil Association completely audits their entire process to guarantee that absolutely zero chemical additives or bleaching agents touch the salt. What you get in the bag is a naturally brilliant white, exceptionally crunchy flake that contains 0 microplastics and undergoes regular independent laboratory testing to verify safety. The taste profile is incredibly deep, carrying a subtle sweetness from the naturally retained marine minerals without a single trace of industrial or geological bitterness. It is more expensive, retailing at around £6 to £7 for a 100-gram ceramic jar or pouch at Waitrose, Ocado, or direct from Wales, which translates to a luxury tier price. But you are paying a transparent premium for intensive, high-tech filtration and an ironclad guarantee of environmental purity. It is the ideal choice for anyone who wants an absolute guarantee of quality and is happy to invest in British coastal sustainability. www.cookiepedia.co.uk. Finally, if you want a reliable everyday workhorse that completely eliminates nutritional gaps for pennies, we have to look back at standard iodized table salt from brands like Saxa, which you can find on the bottom shelf of literally every Morrison's, Co-op, or Lidl in the country. It is completely unglamorous. It comes in a simple plastic drum, and it will never look fashionable on a social media feed. But from a pure public health and physiological standpoint, it is an absolute triumph. The industrial refining process completely washes the sodium chloride, stripping away any natural heavy metal contaminants that exist in raw rock deposits. More importantly, it is deliberately fortified with potassium iodate to ensure your thyroid has the exact fuel it needs to prevent fatigue, brain fog, and severe metabolic decline. A massive drum costs less than £1, meaning the cost per use is effectively non-existent. It is the ultimate democratic health food, completely safe, scientifically sound, and accessible to every single household budget in Britain. By swapping the unverified pink marketing trick for a combination of iodized table salt for your boiling pasta water and pristine Maldon flakes for finishing your meals, you completely secure your family's health while saving a fortune. You get the ultimate balance of verified purity, essential nutrition, and culinary excellence without giving a single penny to the wellness con artists. Now that we have stripped away the clever marketing copy and look directly at the laboratory data, we need a practical strategy so you can navigate the condiment aisle without being manipulated by multi-billion-pound food conglomerates. This is the section of the video you are going to want to take a mental note of, because these are 5 definitive rules for choosing salt in any British supermarket. First, look for single-source operational transparency on the packaging, if a brand cannot name the exact specific geographic site or facility where the salt was harvested and instead hides behind broad terms like product of Pakistan or imported ancient seabeds. You are buying an unverified commodity batch that changes based on whichever intonation our vendor offered the lowest contract price that quarter. Second, treat any claim of 84 ancient minerals as an absolute warning sign rather than a premium benefit, because it fundamentally indicates a raw, completely unwashed rock product containing microscopic geological debris, including naturally occurring heavy metals that should have been refined out. Third, ensure that you maintain a reliable, fortified source of iodine in your daily routine, meaning that if you choose to use premium, unrefined gourmet flakes like Maldon for finishing your meals, you must balance it by using standard iodized table salt for your bulk, everyday boiling water to prevent long-term thyroid degradation. Fourth, execute a basic water dissolution check if you currently have a pink grinder at home. Drop a tablespoon into clear water and verify that it dissolves without dropping a heavy layer of dark, gritty sediment or artificial dye to the bottom of the glass. Fifth, understand the pricing reality, which means recognizing that paying upwards of £10 to £15 per kilo for an unrefined product when pure, safe table salt sits on the same shelf for under £2 is entirely an investment in aesthetic social media imagery rather than biological health. To completely summarize everything we have uncovered, the massive global wellness industry is fundamentally built on selling consumers a beautifully packaged illusion of prehistoric purity that completely ignores modern geological science. British supermarkets operate within a complete regulatory transparency gap, meaning they are legally permitted to fill their shelves with unverified imports from the exact same Pakistani rock strata that completely failed independent laboratory testing in America. The reality of food procurement is that corporate profit margins will always take priority over voluntary consumer safety metrics unless the purchasing public actively demands independent batch verification. By shifting your thinking away from the aesthetic appeal of a colorful grinder and toward verified filtration and single-source traceability, you immediately stop being an easy victim for high street marketing departments. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this full investigation through to the end. Your attention is the absolute currency that allows us to keep digging up the cold facts that major retailers would significantly prefer to keep quiet. If this video has opened your eyes to the total lack of third-party testing data in our shopping aisles, please hit that hype button right now, because that is the single tool we have to push this research through the algorithm and protect other families across the country. Please share this video with that one mate or family member who refuses to cook with anything other than pink rock salt because they genuinely believe it is a miraculous health tonic. Drop a comment below and let me know exactly which brand of salt is sitting on your kitchen counter right now and whether you are going to give it a proper water test after this. Make sure to subscribe to the channel because we are already working on our next major food expos where we pull apart the shocking industrial secrets behind the single most popular healthy cooking oil sold in Britain. Stay informed, look after your health, and do not trust a corporate promise when you can demand the laboratory data. See you in the next one.